Hi, Dub Techno heavily relies on the effects to build the atmosphere in the tracks. In fact, in my opinion, the effects play even more prominent role than the actual synth sounds. That's why I spend a lot of time creating effect chains that can turn almost any synth into a dub chord drenched in delay and reverb. This is my go-to effects chain for Dub Techno Stabs or Chords in Ableton. For some time, I tried to recreate the chain in hardware using guitar pedals and such, but ultimately got back to Ableton for convenience. But since I recently got the Elektron Analog Heat FX, I realized that it more or less has all the effects built in that I normally use in this chain, and I should be able to replicate similar FX chains on the Heat hardware. As I generally spend a lot of time replicating this chain in hardware using outboard effects, mainly guitar pedals, Heat FX could be the one-stop solution for this. One side note, I don't expect to replicate perfectly because each effect, be it Ableton native, a guitar pedal, or rack effect, has its own sound, although a delay should be a delay. There are actually differences not only in sound, like tape versus digital delays, but also in a way delay handles things like ping pong. So, all that said, I'll try to get in the ballpark with the sound not replicated one-to-one. Anyway, let's go through the Ableton chain first and let's see if we have all the tools we need on the Heat for this. Let's turn off all the other effects for now. So this is the dry sound I'm using. It's a simple minor 9 chord from Wavetable. First in the chain is a bandpass filter, with its frequency being modulated by an LFO, and there's already a hiccupcut. First, why not use the internal LFO on the auto filter? This works just fine, but doesn't give me any indication on how it's affecting the frequency, so I like this sort of external LFO for this, because as you can see, the frequency indicator is moving according to the LFO modulation, so I can see what's going on. So what about the hiccup? I'll skip quickly towards the end of the chain, where I have the saturator effect to give the sound a bit of grit. On Heat though, the saturation circuit and the analog filter are in the same block, so I'll have to move things around a bit. Let's move on to chorus. This is actually the legacy version of Ableton's chorus here, with almost default settings, I think. I won't be able to measure the settings on Heat precisely, mainly because chorus parameters on Heat only show 0 to 127 values, not actual milliseconds or such. This, by the way, goes for almost all parameters on the Heat plus effects. Anyway, Heat has a chorus, so we're good to go. Then we have the EQ to take out some of the lower frequencies. It does have an EQ, but it's very broad and dependent on the selected drive algorithm. So let's see how it goes. Delay/echo. This is the most essential thing for Dub Techno Stabs/Chords. I've set it to dotted chord notes, ping pong, and a small offset between delay lines. There's also some modulation, but we don't have that on the Heat, so let's see if we can get it close enough. Next, a reverb. Reverb in Ableton is pretty standard, long decay, almost 8 seconds, and some filtering, high cut on the input to make it darker, and some high and low cuts on the tail. The reverb on Heat is pretty basic compared to Ableton's. So let's see if I can get the settings at least in a ballpark. Saturation. I already mentioned this, so ideally this should be the last effects in the chain, but I'll have to improvise on the heat. And then there's a bit of compression at the end of the chain. Heat does have a compressor, a digital compressor, so we're good to go. I also set up a shortcut in Ableton so I can quickly switch between the original effect chain and the analog heat, and I'll be using the Overbridge plugin for this so I can show all the parameters on one screen and compare it with the Ableton ones. But of course I can do this on the hardware, so let's move the heat module first in a chain, in a flow, because the first module in our chain is the filter. Set it to bandpass around 75, I think is 1 kHz. That's what I'm looking for. Crank up the resonance a bit. And in the dirt, let's hear it. This is bypassed. Dry signal. And since the heat module also has the saturation in it, I'll add a bit of saturation, which in the original chain is as the last effect in the chain, but here it's in one module, so we have to deal with it. Also, the levels are pretty low already. We'll crank it up. The bandpass filter is kind of broad on heat. On the original, I have 24 dB per octave filter. This is more like 12, I think. So it lets a lot of the non-bandpassed frequencies through. So let's just dial it back. Hit the analog EQ here, and of course the modulation. So let's set LFO, the speed should be pretty slow, and slower than that, and modulate the gives nice movement to the filter. I think that's pretty close to the. Let's check the Ableton one. Of course, I need to match the levels. I'll do that in a bit. But first, let's move choruses next in a chain. Turn it on. Pretty slow chorus. Just a tiny bit. And crank the width. Yeah, I think that works. Next, we have delay. So let's move it over here. Set it to 48-ish. 48 is for dotted chord notes, but I like to not set it exactly so it sort of drifts a bit. And of course, I should have a lot more stereo. I filter it.
Yeah, sounds about right compared to the original. Yeah, I have to deal with the let's add reverb. Long decay time. Filter it. And also I need to match levels with the original, and I'm gonna use compressor for that. Are they gonna use any side chain filter for the compressor? Yeah, that's pretty hard, so let's back out. I actually want to sort of catch the peaks of the original synth and bring out the reverb tail. Okay, so that's that. Bits can be interesting to use as well. Bit of sample rate reduction. I can play with that later, but for now, bit reduction as well. Bit of grit, which is fine. Dub Techno. Let's dial it back for now. But I think I need to sort of take out a bit of the low frequencies. Let's compare it with the original Ableton one. Yeah, that works. Warble is actually fine. Not for this type of sound, I don't like that. But it does have a stereo width effect, which I quite like. Maybe adds a bit of noise. Filter it out.
So it looks tricky, you know. What tell me this.
And then finally the bass module. Not that useful in here, but it can also work as a equalizer, so take out a little bit of those low frequencies. Yeah, I think that's it, yeah. This is the Ableton chain. It's a bit darker, I think. And need to crank up the volume to sort of match it. Now compare those two. I think it gets pretty close, and of course I can then tweak it in real time. Okay, so there you have it. Elektron Analog Heat plus effects acting as a one-step solution for making dub techno chords from any synth. Thanks for watching and see you next time.